Hi there, I'm Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas, and I'd like to welcome you to the Raven's Call. This is a show where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects, just kind of whatever strikes my fancy, sets my mind on fire at the time. Big UPG warning at the beginning of this, like always. These are just the views of one heathen here in East Texas, and are meant to be taken with a grain of salt. These are conversation starters. I don't count myself to be any kind of expert or ossopope or anything like that, not by any means. But I do enjoy teaching, and I enjoy sharing information, and I like getting conversations started. And you guys seem to enjoy the content, so I keep creating. There's been a huge influx of heathenry across the board these days, so we'll have more on that here in a second. But before we get started, all of my contact information is down below, okay? Please check out my book, check out the Facebook group, jump in there, join in the conversation. Email address is listed below. Send in your requests and questions. I love turning those into episodes. I got a great email question right before I came into this to film, but I need some time to turn it into a thing. And so I'm going to work on that, and hopefully maybe it'll be next week's. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, please do. I love viewer requests. I love working on those, especially these days because with the weird job situation that I've got going on, you can check the post credits for a very, very brief update on that. I don't have a whole lot of time to work on content these days. I'm trying to, but I try to. That's part of the reason I've gone to the 2-week schedule, is because it gives me a little bit more time to wrap my head around something that I want to talk about. And yeah, I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep a night, so I'm not firing on all cylinders, as it were. But it's all right. It's good. All is good. So, yeah. All the contact information, blah, blah, blah. Let's jump into today's subject, all right? Live. Listen to me. Currently, there's been an influx of newbie heathens across the board. This is a growing thing. Heathenry is expanding rapidly. And that's part of the reason I keep doing the channel, is because I love to put these things out for newbie heathens and maybe turn them back to some of my older content so that they can get a grounding, a footing, you know, at least a starting point where they can start looking into things and figuring things out for themselves. Now, a lot of what we've got to look to as far as this influx of newbie heathens and whatnot in the modern era are things like social media. And social media makes a big difference when it comes to exposure. There are a number of IPs that have made a big difference, Vikings being one of those, but not the only one. There are several things coming out of Scandinavia these days that have turned some attention towards heathenry, Norse paganism, different approaches. And I like to see this. I do. People balk and go back and forth on representation of heathenry within media. And it's a thing. I get it. I absolutely get it. It's one of those things that it doesn't accurately portray what it is to be heathen now, but it does get people interested into looking and learning more. Now, 80% of those people, 90% of those people that look into it aren't going to stick around, or if they do, they're going to stick around in a kind of a superficial manner. But there are those that find their way deeper in and actually find deep value in heathenry when they get to digging, and they wouldn't have even looked at it or even thought about it as a possibility if they hadn't seen a show like Vikings or something like that. So I can't really dog on it too bad, because it gets them in the door. It's a gateway into discovering more and growing as a person. And so however they get there, whatever their path is, I can't really speak against that. I find it to be a positive thing overall. Now, there are some hiccups, there are some problems, and we're going to touch on one of those today. But mostly I think it is a situation of kind of a gatekeeper kind of thing. Old school heathens being kind of gatekeeperish about heathenry and feeling an urge to impose their way of doing things onto newbie generations that isn't wholly out of place, but maybe taken in a more aggressive or oppositional fashion than needs to be. I don't know. We'll explore it here in just a minute. But one of the things that I see a lot is on social media an influx of those that are brought to heathenry by, say, the aesthetic, that are into Norse mythology, that are kind of a little bit more on the brosatry side of things, a little bit more on the superficial side of things, or on the generalized neo-pagan with Norse overlays kind of approach. And as a result, this gets plastered everywhere and people see it, and that's as deep as some people go. Some people go deeper, and I like that there are content creators out there like myself and like Jesse over at Midgard's Musings. There's a number of really good content creators that are putting information out there for people to start delving a little bit deeper, to look at heathenry from more than just the superficial standpoint. A lot of you, I'm sure, by this point are familiar with TikTok. And on TikTok, there's this thing called Norse Talk, which everything's got a subgenre on TikTok at some point in time. If you're not on TikTok, it's a time sink. Don't get on it. You'll regret it. You'll laugh, you'll love, you'll have a blast with it, and then 3 hours will go by and you're still looking at your stupid screen, flipping through videos. It's just, But it is neat to see little communities grow up, and you're going to see this in most social media platforms that gain in any kind of popularity. You're going to see little pockets of heathenry start to pop up. It's already happened on Facebook. We've seen heathen groups pop up online. We've seen meme groups, we've seen discussion groups, research groups, meetup groups. It's a wonderful tool for networking. It's also a wonderful tool for misinformation and for generalized just kind of BS-ery. It's a wonderful tool to fight. There is a reason that I refer to the internet as Trollhem, because it is where the trolls live. And if you're playing Trollhem, you're going to come up smelling like troll. Do not roll in the shit with trolls. They like the smell. So you can't, no, he just, if you engage with a troll, you've already lost. Just back off, run away, be done with it. They're not worth the time. But there are good things that come out of this mire that is the internet. And these are newbie heathens that are genuinely looking for new things. Now, like I said, there's a kind of a gatekeeperish thing with old school heathens where newbies come in and old school heathens get kind of guarded about heathenry because they see these newbies with their more superficial stuff, with their face paint and with their costumes and stuff on Norse Talk, with their, almost comic booky approach to heathenry in some instances. And I fear that there's a gut reaction here that may miss the mark and miss some people, let some people slip through the cracks that could turn out to be awesome heathens that really could benefit and grow from it. Because ultimately speaking, one of the things that I hear as a kind of a rebuttal to this growing cosplay heathenry, that's what it's mostly referred to, is that it is cosplay, that they're not really engaging in heathenry, but they're just kind of cosplaying heathenry. They dress up as a Viking, they jump on here, they talk about the gods, they do this, that, and the other, but that's not entirely accurate. Now, for some it is. For some it's absolutely just brosa true level, dressing up, playing heathen, and looking good on the internet. It's for the views, it's for the follows, it's for the likes. It's social media. That's what they do. That's gonna be a thing. It's always been a thing since the internet was brought up. It's going to be a thing, and it's probably going to be worse as time goes along. But not all of them are like that. And so that's kind of what I wanted to touch on, is that there are some genuinely good content providers out there that look at that enjoy that. That's just fun for them. They like to dress up and do the kind of Viking reenactment. Now, it's mostly fantasy-based Viking with the face paint and the kind of general noir feel, the darker, almost like from the game Senua's Revenge, things like that. It's the Valkyrie face paint, or the dudes that dress up and do the war paint and everything. And there's a lot of that going on, but there's a lot of those guys that actually are doing decent content, that are looking into their things, and they just enjoy dressing up like that. As a guy that used to do Ren Fair all the time, I enjoyed dressing up and doing reenactment stuff. I really did. A lot of the skills I have with swordplay and martial weapons came from my time in the Ren Fair. Are they useful in practical world today? No, not really. I am proficient enough with polearms that I could defend myself with a mop handle if I needed to, but realistically speaking, what kind of use is that in the modern day? Not a lot, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was something that I enjoyed doing. but I also could differentiate between my regular life and my Ren Fair life. I did integrate a lot of my heathenry into my Ren Fair life because it was a way to express myself. It was a way to enjoy an aesthetic that, spoke to a part of me. And so a lot of what you see with regards to like cosplay heathenry is just that. It's people that enjoy an aesthetic and are looking to engage in something that allows them to express themselves. And so I would, more than anything, I would say don't necessarily write somebody off just because they like to dress up and do the thing on the internet. Because I will tell you right now, as far as views and everything goes, those people get far more views than somebody like me who doesn't do the dress up and would sit up there and do just talking head and talking about heathenry. If you want a clear-cut example of this, take a look at mine and Jesse over at Midgard Musings channels. Jesse's channel has got way more views, way more subscribers, and I've been doing this a lot longer than Jesse has. Actually helped Jesse along through some of his earlier areas and times and helped kind of teach him some stuff. He's an excellent guy, knows his stuff, he's cool, I like him. But the view differences on our channels are immense, and part of that is because of brand management. He manages his brand very well and really puts it out there and is just good at what he does. That's my customer bell. We had a guy come in and turn around. But anyway, he manages his brand very well, and he pushes his channel, and he works his merch, he engages with his fan base, he's good at the YouTube thing, and so he's got the viewer base for it. There are a number of other content providers that do similarly. A lot of people follow Arth Harker. He's got great content production value. I'll give it that. We have very different approaches to heathenry. We don't necessarily see eye to eye on the way we do things, but he does have great content production value, and that helps to draw in viewers. And so he gets all of this going on. Now, if you go over to something like TikTok, which is very ADHD in its approach, it's very in the moment. You have them in the first 3 seconds of the video or you don't. If they make it past the first 3 seconds, they're more likely to watch the rest of the video. If they don't make it, if you don't grab them in that first 3 seconds, you're probably not going to get them through a whole 30-second or 3-minute video. It's just not going to happen. And if you guys know anything about my content, I'm a wordy bastard, and fitting something into a 30-second clip is a bit rough when I like to go deep into content and I like to ramble for quite some time. Plus, I don't have a whole lot of time to do like production value kind of things. So my kind of approach to heathenry, which is more inclined to deeper conversation and getting things, looking at things from a more, I guess, serious standpoint, is not necessarily as effective as something that's flashy and new and catches the eye. I mean, it's basic marketing 101 when it comes to, managing a brand, managing a product. You want something that catches the eye and engages the viewer. So a lot of what you're going to see with these cosplay heathens is flash. It's shock value. It's, hey, this is different. What's going on here? And they're going to use, notable songs that are way overused, and that there's so much more out there than just this, but it's recognizable and it cues people in. Plus, it's frequently in deeper tones and more, I don't want to say chanty, but it's just that kind of deeper, more guttural kind of approach to the music that is aesthetically in line with what they're doing as far as their production and what they're putting on the channel. So you're going to see these people do these things. You're going to see them pop up with face paint. You're going to see them pop up and do the voiceovers between Odin and Loki, or Thor and Loki, and they're going to, maybe have some inspirational thing that they're going to say. And if you just take it at face value for the 30 seconds that it's up there, you're probably, if you're a seasoned heathen, going to write it off and keep going, because it's not necessarily your bag. It's not necessarily your approach. I know a lot of heathens that are turned off by these things because they feel like they're superficial and they feel like they're just flash in the pan cosplayers that are pretending to be heathen. But some of these people are actually doing some stuff with it. Now, due to the nature of the internet, anybody and everybody can put something out there. So just because they're going deeper and doing more doesn't necessarily mean that the specific content that they're putting out is accurate or deep in value, but some of it is. And that's the one thing that I kind of wanted to bring a different point of view on is that some of these people, like I've been paying attention to some of them, and some of them that do put out more superficial TikTok-y kind of things, which admittedly a lot of times when I see somebody come through with more of a cosplay heathen approach on TikTok, I'm going to scroll right past it because it's just not for me. But then I've caught them on their lives, and they'll get group lives going together where they talk about the mythology, they talk about belief structure, they talk about who and what they are, and they've got this viewer base from this very flashy video that they've done, and all of a sudden they've snagged all these people and they've pulled them into this live, and they're having meaningful conversations and going somewhere with it. So they took this thing which seems very superficial on the surface and have turned it into something of deeper value because they've invested beyond just the marketing aspect of it. Now, it's easy to boil it down into marketing. It's not really, it is marketing and it's not, but it uses a lot of the same psychology that goes into marketing, which is why it's so easy to pull in marketing templates and thought processes when you're dealing with these kind of situations. It's about grabbing attention, and it's about engaging your audience and bringing them in. And all of a sudden, this thing that seems like it's just a playful little banter for 30 seconds online with a bunch of people in face paint and, Viking costumes that are not super accurate. Most of the time they're not accurate at all. But some of them are, and those are always kind of neat to see. Attention to detail is kind of cool. But a lot of times these superficial approaches lead into deeper engagement. I've personally seen some people that will do these kind of videos, suck people in with the flashy name, the face paint, the whole costume deal, and then they're like reading Norse mythology in their live and then having an active discussion right there. Now, a lot of that is newbie level stuff, but that's good. I'm glad to see that because it's not just flash in the pan stuff, it's actually delving into some of the lore and utilizing their influence base to help educate individuals that have managed to be interested in the little snippets that they've put up there. They're leveraging modern technology and modern approaches to heathenry, to the internet, to engagement with society as a whole, and they're leveraging that to create engagement with interested parties and to help foster growth and teaching. So I can't see that as a bad thing. Now, I don't always agree with what they're teaching or the way that they're going about it, but tribal differences are going to be tribal differences. I'm not going to agree with everybody. I don't want everybody to think like I do. I don't think like Greater Heathenry does for the most part. It's generalized stuff. There's a lot of people that do agree with my approach in a lot of ways that I do things, but there's a lot of people that don't, and that's fine. I have no problem with that because they're going to go out and they're going to do things their way. I've mentioned it on the channel before that some people felt I was Theodish. I'm not Theodish. I do have some core values in common with Theodism, but the Theodish probably wouldn't even recognize me as a heathen. Save one, but he's just a good friend of mine. So we go way back. And differences in approach are not a bad thing. Tribal differences are not a bad thing. We're not some big book religion with some overarching structure. Heathenry never was, and it never will be. At least I hope not, because that way leads to crystallization and ultimately cultural death. Differences and idiosyncrasies, individualism within tribal structures and differences, I find to be a strength in modern heathenry. And you're going to get people all across the board that are more generalized neo-pagan or are hardcore reconstructionist. Just different approaches. I would like to see people that are more serious about heathenry utilize some of the techniques of modern social engineering on, social media in general to leverage that information and to get people engaged outside of things simply as Facebook. Now, ultimately speaking, some of that's going to be a generational thing because, older generations are going to find their niche and they're going to kind of wedge in there. Plus, there's that tendency, like I said before, about older generations to be more gatekeepery. They're going to look at these individuals with their face paint and their costumes, and they're going to think, oh, look at these long-haired hippies. Sounds familiar? That's a thing, and it's natural amongst humans. Like breeds like, and people try to adhere to a more homogeneic approach to their world around them. That's just psychologically a thing that humans do. We seek out tribal structures and individuals to surround ourselves with that reflect our inner sense of self, our mental projection of ourselves and how we see ourselves, and we try to surround ourselves with more like that. It's not always accurate, but it is a natural thing. Sometimes it's good to step outside of that comfort zone and explore some different avenues. So things that can be learned from the cosplay heathens is how to leverage social media in such a way as to increase engagement, if that's a thing that your particular group is into. Not every group is into trying to educate and grow. A lot of people are very insular in their approach, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all. Not that they would care whether or not I endorse their insular nature, because they're insular and don't care what the outside world thinks. They're just doing what they do. More power to you, good. I hope everything goes well for you. I wish you luck. I wish you strength and bounty in your future. Some people are more socially oriented and want to share, want to engage, want to do. I myself have engaged in the YouTube thing now for a couple of years, and it seems to have its benefits. Like I said before, my viewership isn't necessarily the highest. I haven't broken 3,000 yet as far as my subscriber base, but I'm not in it for the numbers. I'm just in it to put things out there, and for those that find it interesting to like it and maybe share it. So please do share the videos around in areas where you think they might be of interest to people. Not everybody's into my approach. Not everybody's into watching me stand here and talk for a half hour on whatever, rambling. But some people do enjoy it. And I find it frustrating and off-putting when people will write off kind of the cosplay, Norse talk kind of things because of its superficiality. Yes, I agree, like 75 to 80% of it is superficial. It is just people out there playing. But here's the thing about that. Is there anything really wrong with that? Is there anything really wrong with people just enjoying this cultural aesthetic that they've built for themselves? Ultimately, I say not. If it's not your thing, don't moan about it. Just move on. Let them do their thing, and you go do your thing, and everybody's fine. But that's been an argument with the internet since its inception. You are capable of scrolling past things that you find offensive or that don't jive with your worldview and simply going on to what does interest you. There's so much on the internet now that I guarantee you there's something out there that will offend you, and there is something out there that you will enjoy. Scroll past that which offends you, find that which you enjoy, and be happy if you can. Don't let frustration with superficiality get you down. But also, don't necessarily write off those that are doing the flashy, showy stuff, because like I said, sometimes there's deeper value there. Sometimes there's, behind that face paint, behind that, fake fur, behind the, fake spears and helmets and horns and smoke effects and, Viking themes and overused music, sometimes there's an individual there with some sincere insight, a genuine heathen that's, looking to share. And this is their method of doing that. It's neat. It's different. And I think in the modern day, we're going to see more and more of this. And for newbie heathens, I would say this. Don't take the superficial stuff that you see on things like Norse talk and all that, where people are done up in the Viking gear and all this stuff as, deeper heathenry. That's more the surface level, superficial, fun, play stuff. There's deeper stuff there. There's deeper meaning. There's philosophy. There's religion. There's culture. There is deep exploration of the gods and goddesses, their expectations, our reciprocity, the nature of oaths, the nature of frith and grith, the nature of weird and orlog, luck. There's so many things that are deeper and worthy of attention, aside from just the funny video where the lady in the face paint talks about a conversation between Loki and Thor. There's a lot that can be done there. Also, these things can be done in such a way as to help perpetuate more accurate representations of the mythology for those that are of a mind to create that kind of content. So there's some great stuff out there, but that's an aside. Again, with my warning to newbie heathens, watch out for becoming overly invested in the superficial talk. Just because somebody dresses up in the gear and paints runes on their face does not mean they are a seasoned heathen. It does not mean that they have deeper knowledge. It simply means they know how to work social media. It simply means that they enjoy doing that. Nothing wrong with it. absolutely nothing wrong with it. I can speak from experience, though, walking around Ren Fair, that the dude that dresses up in Viking gear and has the Thor's hammer and all the jazz on, has really just done up his Viking gear. May even have it historically accurate. Hey, we'll give him that. We'll say this person's got completely historically accurate gear, is really doing his reenactment stuff hardcore. Doesn't mean that he understands heathenry. It just simply means that he is fascinated with that time period and likes to reenact that time period. He's having fun. As part of his character, he may engage in some superficial level of heathenry, or at least espouse heathen ideals when he's in character, but it is very much a character. And that's what you're going to find a lot of time on these social media platforms, is what you see there on the screen is actually the character that they are representing for that medium. They're not necessarily sharing their true selves. They're sharing this character that they've built and put on the media to put out there. And it's that way with any social media. Even with me on the channel is going to be different than talking to me in person, because I am very focused on the channel at the moment. I'm in teacher mode. I'm in talkie mode. This is a modality of my personality, but it is not the fullness of my personality, as my tribe can surely attest, because I do have a few members that actually watch my videos. Shout out to Rob and Amber and Brandon, the cat. But you've got to keep in mind as you're going through that what you're seeing on the screen is not necessarily reflective of their day-to-day lives. They're not going to dress up in that costuming all the time and then go to the store. They may not even dress like that for ritual. They may, and if they do, that's their call. Not my call, not my call. I've talked a little bit about ritual garb before. There are individuals that like to put on Viking gear and whatnot and engage in ritual with that, because it helps them to feel included and to reach that mental state that they feel they need to in order to engage with the divine in ritual. They feel it is more effective as a method of honing in that process and getting to that state of mind that is necessary to bridge that gap. If that's a tool that they use, okay, cool. That is a tool that they use. It's just like with uniform for, say, police officer or military. When you put that uniform on, you are taking on the role of that uniform. And it is like a body armor in and of itself. It's a manifestation, an external manifestation of this inner mindset that you have to reach. So it's not unusual for individuals to have some specific ritual garb that they use. Even for those that don't dress up as, say, Vikings or whatnot to do their ritual, most of them have some kind of ritual garb that they do utilize, and that may be anything from a nice shirt that they wear to, a set of jewelry that they wear specifically for it, or it simply can be the fact that they dress up, that they make themselves look nicer, that they step outside of their normal, t-shirt jeans kind of thing, or even if they stay with the t-shirt jeans kind of thing, they may put on a nicer set of t-shirt jeans. Or if they're planning on doing kind of a messy ritual, they may specifically put on working gear that is intended to get dirty. They are purposefully wearing something for the essence of that ritual, and that becomes ritualized garb at that point. We use the term garb specifically, typically to represent time-specific clothing, time period-specific clothing that is meant for either a light reenactment purpose or just a general aesthetic purpose. But the term garb, as far as meaning just clothing in general, ritual garb can include simply t-shirt, jeans, and shoes and jewelry and all of that. Anything that you wear specifically for ritual purposes becomes ritual garb. It doesn't even necessarily have to be dedicated to ritual, but it is something that you are purposefully putting on for the purpose of that ritual and engaging in that ritual that day, that time. So, because of that, because we see that going on, it doesn't necessarily negate the value of individuals that get on and do the cosplay heathenry on social media. I keep coming back to that term because if you're not familiar with the term cosplay, it is specifically a subgenre of individuals that create costuming usually to represent some kind of fictional character. And then there's differing levels of authenticity that they go for, but it's usually as an homage to said character. They do it for fun. They do it because they enjoy it. Some do it professionally and are extremely good at it, but they got into it because they enjoyed it and it was fun. It was a thing. They learn the skill of their craft, they get better at it, and they delve deep into it. Usually it's regarding to an IP that they enjoy. So the use of the term cosplay when it comes to cosplay heathens is the idea that they are dressing up like heathens and pretending to be heathen. Yes, some of them are like that. But I would say the same thing about some of the Brosotru individuals that I know out there who are dressing up as heathen and kind of pretending to be heathen. Even though they're not wearing costumes, they are putting on the affect of being heathen without actually doing anything deeper than the aesthetic, the superficial, surface level, you know, I'm a heathen, I'm a Viking, dude. You know, you get that age-old thing on the internet, you are not a Viking. You know, you're not a Viking. That's a thing that ruffles some feathers because a lot of people are like, I'm a Viking. I come from Viking stock as well, some actual Vikings. And then I come from a lot of Norse stock that just in general were farmers and things like that. I also come from some royal lines within Norway that trace back to Harald Fairhair, which a number of people can because those lines have deviated all throughout the world. And so, you know, there's a large percentage of the world that is related to the Fairhair dynasty through some form or fashion. My great uncle did all the research for us and managed to trace it back. Really cool. It's a talking point. It doesn't really amount to anything, but it's cool nonetheless. So, you know, I do identify heavily with some of the Viking aesthetic because that time period is neat. I like that time period. I very much feel a pull to that time period, but that doesn't have any impact on my actual heathenry. I'm heathen day to day. I'm heathen in my boots and jeans just the same as I would be if I was dressed up in garb. I am heathen at work the same as I am at home, the same as I am at my rituals. We talked before about the spatial approach to heathenry, bringing heathenry into here and now. Not just a temporal approach, but a specific spatial approach where you begin to build your heathen bubble around you. You integrate it with your life in the world around you and your day-to-day living. And I love to see people start engaging in doing that. So, my general gist, as I continue to ramble and sidetrack myself off of it, is that social media in general today can be a cesspool. It can be an absolute pit of drivel and infighting and trolls. Absolutely can be. It can be a platform that you put up superficial, showy mock heathens to display them for the public and to get millions of views and to, you know, pull to a general demographic that enjoys this aesthetic. But it can also be a way to reach out to that specific demographic and educate and share and just, if anything, let people know that we are a thing. Now, a lot of times what you're going to see with people that engage in more specifically Viking and that era of aesthetic is that they're trying to differentiate themselves from some of the more generalized neo-pagans, because heathenry is in and of itself different than neo-paganism. There are some fundamental differences in approach, and there's a different kind of structure to it than generalized neo-paganry. There's a lot of neo-pagans that will use a thin heathen veneer on top of what is essentially a Wicca base, but I don't really count that in amongst heathenry. That's more along the superficial line of things. But that's also not my hall, not my call kind of deal. So a lot of people are heathen, but they only have a generalized neo-pagan social structure to interact with. And so in order to find their identity in a setting where people like to dress up in their witchy garb is to dress up in Viking garb to differentiate themselves from that and to clearly broadcast, hey, this is me. I'm different. I'm not, you know, in with the rest of it, you know, hammer not pentacle kind of crew. And I don't really see a problem with that. It is, I think, to a certain extent, early phase differentiation that is common in the transition into heathenry, especially with newbie heathens, or even heathens that have been around for a while but still haven't completely found their place within it. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's part of that growing. It's like when you're a teenager and you're first going out into the world and you're exploring your sense of self. When the brain develops to a point that it's able to differentiate self from other, we take on an affect that is somewhat reflective of our social group, but then we add elements to differentiate, to gain that individuality. And I see that that is a lot of what's going on here with kind of the Norse Talk thing. And I use Norse Talk specifically, but it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on everything. It's just the modern kind of Norse general social media. But they are trying to, one, manage a brand and garner views and get interactions and all that stuff, and it's more effective when you have a show to put on than it is if you're a talking head like me. That's just not my platform. That's not where I would shine. But also, they're trying to kind of create a visual community in a visual spectrum, a visual media that makes them easily and instantly identifiable. Because you know the instant somebody pops up there and they've got the face paint on, the runes on the face, they're dressed up in the garb and everything. You know instantly what you're in for because it's there. It's right there. You hear my mother told me. All in the background. It's there. You know instantly what you're dealing with, and that association is instantaneous. That's how you work those social media platforms. That's just how it works. It associates them with a social structure within that metaverse that has been created there and gives them community. But then they really ramp up the production value because they want to differentiate themselves. They want to be included in it, but they want you to know when you pull it up that it's them you're looking for. So they will work and hone their look over time to create a character that is instantly recognizable as them and is engaging enough for people to continue to return and engage with their content. A lot of it is just content management. So, and as anybody that's done any kind of internet content knows, content management is a thing. Like I said with mine and Midgard Musings channels, the difference between our viewer base and our engagement base is content management, largely. Jesse just does a far better job of content management than I do, and content promotion, audience engagement, things like that. He just does a better job of managing the social media platform than I do. And largely that's just because I don't have the time or energy to do it right now. It's just not my thing. Plus, I've never been one to overly push the channel because I want people to find it organically and kind of enjoy it. Because if it's pushed out there too much, it's going to end up in front of the faces of a bunch of people that don't enjoy it and going to get slammed and lambasted and whatnot. I'd rather it kind of organically find its way into social structures that people, enjoy it and want to share it and want to, engage in it. So it's why I take a little bit more slower approach. And mine's been a slow burn build as opposed to his, which I think he's up to like 4 something. I forget. I haven't looked at his viewer count lately because I don't pay much attention to it. I look at my viewer count about once a month and go, okay, that's where I'm at. Because I think when I looked at it before, I was like 3,980 something. So I'm like right on the brink, 2,980 something. I'm right on the brink of breaking over 3,000 subscribers. So it is what it is. But nonetheless, the gist of all of this is that modern internet social media platforms can be a wonderful tool for educating individuals, case in point, the YouTube channel, but it can also be a wonderful way of just building engagement and putting things out there for people to see. If you have a problem with most of the engaging content being the more superficial Norse talk kind of approach to things, then get out there and make your own media, make your own production, and share what you feel is important. Share your view, find your niche, and put content out there so that it's available to people. You hear me talk all the time with groups that I would like for newbies to talk to everybody that they can, to learn every different avenue of heathenry that they can, because people are always going to be convinced their approach to heathenry is the right approach to heathenry. Just that's the way it is. It's supposed to be. It's their belief structure. If they felt like somebody else's approach was more accurate, they would be following that approach. They feel like theirs is the way. That's why it's their way. It's like me. Rithgari heathenry is the way that I view, my tribe views heathenry. And that is our engagement. That is our aesthetic. That is our approach. And that's the way that it's supposed to be. It's for our tribe. It's not for anybody else. It's for us. So as long as we're doing that, we're golden. As such, I don't feel the need to push Rithgari heathenry on the internet. It's not my place. It's not, that's not what I want to do. I don't want everybody trying to think like Rithgar. That's for my tribe and us alone. We're good with that. We're fine with that. I share information as I can out here, and I don't mind sharing a little bit of how we do things because I'm not completely insular. I'm not going to be a gatekeeper on things, but I want people to come up with their own approaches to heathenry, to find their own tribal identity and hearth identity, clan identity in the modern world. That's just part of it. And so, long story short, what you see on the internet is not necessarily what you're looking at face value. It could be something that has deeper meaning. It could be a content provider who understands social media and is leveraging their knowledge of social media to engage and build a viewer base that they can then expose to educational information through the various avenues of engagement that they engage in as a part of managing their online presence. Now, it's also entirely possible that what you're stumbling across is somebody who is on the superficial level, but purports themselves to be of a deeper mindset about things and are kind of full of it. So you need to be guarded on that. And when it comes to things like TikTok, watch what you enjoy. I don't care. The one takeaway that I want is I'm not bashing Northstock or anything like that. I'm not. Seen some really cool content providers. I actually, if anything, am warning against gatekeeping and like everything, telling people to moderate their expectations and their engagement and how much they put stock in any one content provider. Keep in mind, every content provider that puts things out there is putting out a character. It may just be a hair off from their personality, but it is still a character. It is still something they put on for the channel that has been honed to that particular medium and is put on for that production. And then from there, they will go back and they will be themselves as soon as the cameras turn off. You're never going to know that person on that personal level unless you know them personally and you've engaged, again, with that proximity element of heathenry. You need face-to-face, real-time interactions with people. When you're dealing with people on the internet, you only ever know the character that they create for the internet, the parts of themselves that they want to put out there. You don't know the nitty-gritty. You don't know if that person is just really good at presenting online, but is actually very toxic behind the scenes. I've known some people like that. It's a thing. So, big takeaway from this is, be mindful of what you take as, serious content. But enjoy the content that you do. It's cool. No judgment from me. I think it's cool. I enjoy some of those. I walk around singing the stupid songs in the back of my head sometimes because it's just fun. And it's okay to have fun. All right? As a guy that doesn't necessarily get to have a lot of fun these days because of how much I'm working and doing and all that, enjoy your fun when you can. Enjoy your fun when you can. If you enjoy it, do it. Great. Not everything has to be, education and building and all that. Sometimes it can be just silly, slapsticky fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So, anyway, that's it for today. We're going to wrap it up here. Hopefully I'll have some more stuff for you guys here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how things shape out with the job situation. I'll keep you updated on the channel. All my information down below. You guys know the deal. Like, share, ding the bell, all that jazz. Thank you all. Hail. May your hearth fires burn bright. All right. Real brief, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the after credit stuff here. Life is trucking along. Ups and downs. You know how it goes. The job thing is kind of shaken out. It looks like we're probably going to have to close down and sell the family business, which is a thing, but it is what it is. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it here on the channel. Just know that as I'm going through and doing my stuff here, that there's probably going to be some hiccups and stuff, and I'm pretty taxed at the moment. But do please keep writing in because I use all of that. I just got an email in right before filming this that looked like it might be an interesting video idea, so that may be my next one. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. D&D front is kind of slow at the moment. We had a session scheduled for this weekend, but that had to be postponed because one of my members came down with the Rona, and not fun. So we're going to go ahead and bump that back a week. So hopefully by the next video I'll have some cool stories to tell and some shenanigans that my characters have gotten into. I could go back and pull stuff from old games, but I'll save that for later. I do intend to, at some point in time, sit down with my collection and kind of show some stuff off and talk some D&D stuff as a dedicated, just off the main feed kind of thing. It'll still be on the same channel feed. It just won't bear all of the Raven's Call markings and stuff like that. It'll be gaming with Eric or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't know. So, with all of that, we're going to go ahead and, and on the job thing, I've got applications into other places. I'm looking for stuff. I'm trying to work out some details. I'll keep you guys posted. But I'll touch a little bit on that and the lead-in stuff, which won't happen yet because I filmed the post-credits first as I'm warming up and wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey crap, you know. Anyway, without any further ado, let's jump into today's episode, shall we? We're live in 3, 2, 1, let's jam.